Hello, everybody. I'm coming to you from Clintondale Middle School in room 111, and today I want to talk about chapter 14. I want to talk about the very beginning of the chapter, and the main subject of the chapter, of course, as you know, is Andrew Jackson. This book is called American Lion, and Andrew Jackson is just that. He is one of the most famous presidents. He's on the $20 bill, and he is a new type of American president. And I want to talk about how he became president and why he became president and some of the things that he did as president. So this video is going to help you get done with pages 95, which you did in class yesterday, 96, which you're doing in class today, and 97 that you might have to do as homework tonight. So let's just start out by talking about American democracy. Democracy is voting and being able to have your voice be heard. And in the 1820s, a democracy had expanded because people had moved west, and when people moved west, they started to demand more rights. And these people who moved west are known as the common man. We're talking about poor white farmers, poor white business owners that are just struggling to get by. And these guys demanded the right to vote. And many of them fought with Andrew Jackson and knew Andrew Jackson and were familiar with him because Andrew Jackson was also from the West. He was also a common man who had came west and was self-educated, and he was self-made. Now, the people who didn't like Jackson were people who were rich and well-born. People who were born with money, who had the nice Harvard education. Jackson didn't have an education like that. Jackson was self-educated. He became a lawyer by working for a lawyer. So Jackson becomes the main icon for the common man, the guy that the common man wants to be president. So we talked about that yesterday and how Jackson was a motivator for people to want to vote and have their voice be heard. Now, Jackson tried to run for president in 1824, 4 years before he became president in 1828. And now I'm going to be talking about page 96. In 1824, he ran for president, and a lot of people voted for him. But he didn't get enough electoral votes, so it went to the House of Representatives. And in the House of Representatives, they voted for John Quincy Adams. And even though Jackson got the most popular votes, he did not become president. And this made him very angry, and he called this the corrupt bargain. Now, Jackson was very famous from his leadership at the Battle of New Orleans. He was a self-made man, and he thought that he deserved to be president. So for 4 years, between 1824 and 1828, he worked his brains out making a political machine called the Democratic Party. And this political machine, it wasn't an actual machine. It was a group of people, a network of connected people that all had the same interest in getting Andrew Jackson elected president. And in 1828, they succeeded. And like I said, this was called the Democratic Party. Now on page 97, we're going to talk about the style that Andrew Jackson had and how he was a little bit different from previous American presidents. First of all, I've stated this before, that Jackson is a self-made man. He was born poor. He was born in a log cabin. The previous presidents, Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, Quincy Adams, had all been either from Virginia or Massachusetts. They were all rich. They were all from that upper class establishment. And here's Jackson, who's an orphan, and he is going to become president. And because of this, Jackson didn't really trust a lot of like the Washington, D.C. insiders. Washington, he thought was very corrupt, and that Washington was run by people who had a lot of money, and Jackson wanted to bring the government back to the people. So Jackson's advisors were known as the kitchen cabinet, and these were a group of his friends that used to come into the kitchen and have talks with him about how we should run the country. And a lot of the rich and well-born thought the guys who were in the kitchen cabinet, like his friends, his inner circle, were bad for the country. Jackson also put into effect the spoils system, and this has to be in your essay. The spoils system is basically Jackson would come in as president, and the people who didn't support him that worked for the government, they would get fired. and Jackson would hire people who did support him. And that way he could trust the people who were working for him. And this is known as the spoils system. And the spoils system basically dealt with what's called civil servants, people who work for the government. And if you weren't one of Jackson's people, he was going to fire you and hire one of his own people to do your job. And a lot of people, first of all, thought that this was bad because, these people who Jackson were firing had experience in helping run the government. And Jackson just came in and cleaned house. He got rid of people that he didn't trust, and he installed people who he did trust. And this is called the spoils system. To the victors go the spoils. The spoils is a way of saying a trophy. Like Jackson has the power, so he's going to put his people in charge. So you need to have that mentioned. You need to talk about the kitchen cabinet and how it was his secret group of advisors. And you need to talk about the spoils system and how many civil servants lost their jobs so that Jackson could hire his own political people to do the job that they were doing. So if you have questions, I need you to hit me up on Edmodo. I'm going to be by. I need both of these paragraphs on pages, all three pages 95, 96, and 97 done. I hope that you learned from this video. We are going to have a quiz over this information tomorrow, so make sure that you're studying tonight. And other than that, do a good job for the substitute. Thanks. God bless America.